I read a story that I just sort of wanted to comment about a little bit. And this was in TechCrunch. The title was "Why the Top 5 Tech Companies Are Dead Set on AI." And I was a little less interested in that. I mean, well, we know because that's where growth is. In the story, they talk about how the pace of smartphone and desktop hardware innovation has slowed. My position is it's inevitable. That's the way the world works. And I thought of cars. Once we figured out that most cars should have 4 wheels, we're pretty much done with that question. Yes, you could have 3, and you call it a tricycle, or 2, or more. But, most cars have 4. 4 seems to be the right number. We're kind of done with that. And similarly, how long have we had a pretty much unchanging graphical user interface mouse and cursor model? Since Xerox PARC showed it to Steve Jobs. And it hasn't changed. You move the puck and the little pointer moves around because it's done. And I always think of word processing in Microsoft Word where, they got it like a long time ago was just fine. Word 2003, Office 2003 works great, but of course they have a new version every year or two despite that. Well, of course, on the AI front, we've got Apple with Siri, Google with their assistant, Amazon with Alexa, Microsoft with Cortana, and Facebook with their chatbots, all sort of, moving into this AI realm. And as I was thinking about this, what occurred to me is that there is a privacy impact because with AI, context is king. And those of us who've been around sort of in the early days will remember the early speech recognition software, which needed to be trained by having the user read a word list. That was part of the, remember Dragon Speak was one of the very early packages. Even back on the Apple II, it was a couple boards full of extra processing in order to get enough horsepower to do that. And I remember that Jerry Pournelle was a big fan of speech recognition and dictating stuff back sort of in that era in the CPM S100 bus days. But the way you trained it to be reliable for you was to read a word list and then to interact with it and to correct it. So it had to learn the way you spoke. Similarly with handwriting recognition, that's gotten a lot better. It is smart enough now to be more generic, but the early handwriting recognition was very similar. It needed to adapt to and learn the unique style of its user. And I think because those are mechanical things, this thing wants to learn to understand me. That seems benign. Or this thing wants to learn how, to read my handwriting. Oh, that's good. That's a convenience. But, we don't think of those in terms of privacy. But when we stop to think about it, it was an early form of biometric parameter acquisition. So now we move into the personal assistant space. And so then what's the context against which our needs will be understood? The context is everything available about us, our entire lives, as much as it has access to, because the more it knows about us, whatever the service is, the better a job the argument is, and it's a true argument. It holds up. It has to understand us, and in order to be able to not only predict but also to deobfuscate, in order to understand what we're saying or what we might mean based on our current location, for example, and based on the places we have been recently, based on what we've been doing on the internet. The more information, the more watching of us that can be done, the better job an assistant of some sort can do of meeting our needs. So our lives and habits and interests are going to be recorded and profiled and modeled in order for this next generation of personal digital assistants to be able to perform their jobs. And it's happening now. And much as with speech recognition and handwriting recognition, maybe we don't notice or care because the benefit offered is clearly, in terms of cost benefit, outweighs whatever concern an individual may have over that kind of sort of explicit I know what you're thinking capability may be. But I just sort of this all played through my mind when I was reading about this story about AI and its future. Again, not to run around screaming with my hair on fire, but for our audience, it's just worth considering that the way these things work, in order to be as good as they're going to get, they just need to be sucking up, vacuuming every tidbit they can get about us, and with the justification that what we get in return is a more effective servant, a more effective assistant. It'll be interesting to see how this evolves. And I imagine there'll be some people who would rather opt out, stay off of that grid.